to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
Hello. Welcome to episode 205 of the Bold Moves podcast. I am the host, Mandy Bryce, and I am super excited to share with you another episode and another inspiring story. If this is your first time here, every Monday I share an interview that I do with somebody who has made bold moves outside of his or her comfort zone and has great stories to tell about the risks they've taken and the payoffs from those risks. Sometimes the people who make the bold moves make very conscious, bold moves from a very comfortable place and move forward into discomfort to eventually have an amazing life. But that is not always the case, and that is the story for today's author and guest, Heidi Mastrogiovanni. I think anyone who is in love or has been in love knows that their worst nightmare would be losing your romantic partner. And that is what happened to Heidi when she was married to her first husband. And we've talked before about the giant bold moves that you can make, like moving to a new country, starting your own business, quitting your job to do something you love instead. But I've also talked with previous guests before about how sometimes the smallest thing that many of us who are fortunate in our circumstances take advantage or take for granted, such as getting out of bed, can be a super bold move. And that is part of the case in Heidi's story. The best part of the case, however, is that she was able to turn her passion and her healing into a way to express herself and share laughter with the world as a comedic author. And she also does amazing work with animals. And look out, if you are not okay with hearing a couple of feminists chat, you may not enjoy this. However, if you do like that, or are willing to at least put up with it, and you stick around to the end, you can find out how to win a couple copies of Heidi's comedic novels. All right, without further ado, she tells her story, of course, way better than I do. Let me introduce you to Ms. Heidi Mastrogiovanni. Hello, everyone. I am with the wonderful Heidi Mastrogiovanni. Welcome to the show, Heidi.
It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. So you know the show is called Bold Moves, and you wouldn't have been asked to be on it if you haven't made some yourself. And if I'm not mistaken, it was actually August McLaughlin from a few weeks ago that invited you or recommended you. So tell me a little bit about your story and some of the risks you've taken along the way and how those have impacted you.
Yeah, I'm also, thanks to August. She's one of my closest friends, and I'm so crazy about her. And it's such a great question. I love the title. I love bold moves. I love the concept of bold moves. I would say that the reason that August, not speaking for her, but I think the reason she thought of me was that I was widowed when I was 41. Actually,
so
today, thank you. And today, actually, would have been my first husband, my late husband's 67th birthday.
Oh, wow.
He died almost 20 years ago. And it took, I guess I would say it took some bold moves to heal. I had a tremendous amount of help. I had wonderful friends, wonderful family, while Dennis was sick. After when he passed, it took me re-examining. Well, I had to start over, and it took me re-examining who I was. Mm-hmm. My old life was over. It was over. I had to begin again, and there was a lot of examination of things that I was not happy with that I had done up until Dennis's illness really pulled me up short and made me stop being quite so superficial and quite so glib about life. I was 41. Mm-hmm. Maybe we're glib in our 30s. I'm not going to speak for everyone. God knows I was.
Right.
And I'd like to think I'm not anymore. And I do have him to thank for it. I wish he didn't have to go through what he did for me to learn the lessons. I wouldn't trade the lessons.
Sure, absolutely. I can't even imagine going through that. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because just this past Monday, I went to a celebration of life for one of my husband's coworkers that he had maybe met once, but he was 30 years old and literally fell off a cliff. And it was so touching just to hear they had his patients and his coworkers and professors and different people that he interacted with all gave reflections on what he was like and how he impacted their lives. But I couldn't stop thinking about his wife and how, I mean, God forbid anything ever happened to my husband, but just thinking about how that has to be insane to experience.
It's so painful. And that when we were setting this up, I told you that my husband, Tom,
yes,
who I actually met 17 years ago this Sunday.
Okay.
And that was after what would have been thank you so much. And it was after what would have been my late husband's 50th birthday, which was one of the hardest days I've ever had. 3 days later, I met my husband, Tom. He has been told many times he is not allowed to die before I do. I am going first. I am not going through that again. And I say that, of course, because I say it with humor, because it's ridiculous. We have no idea.
Right.
We're all going. Just a question of how and when. That's the only thing that is the question.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you have found your Tom. My husband's name is also Tom, but he goes by Tommy.
I love it. Sometimes I call mine Tommy. That's a pretty great name for a husband. I think you'll agree.
Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't change it for the world, of course. But part of what you said in your, introduction to us is that after your first husband passed, that you began again. So let's hear a little bit about that healing and then what path that's taken you down since then, because you're here now. And like we said, wonderful August suggested that you be here. So I'm sure you've done some cool things that your first husband would be really proud of.
Oh, I'm very moved by that. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. I was thinking about our conversation that we were going to have today. And I was thinking about, I also, just as a sidebar, had a milestone birthday last year. I turned 60 last year. And, that's kind of like, oh, wow, woo. And, gosh, there's a number. And I would say to you that I am happier now than I've ever been. I also feel more energized and more comfortable than I've ever felt before. And I'm also, just full disclosure, I am a proud liberal feminist. And today of all days that we're having this conversation, what has happened since Dennis passed is I am more and more and more living my values. I have identified more strongly. I knew what they were before, but maybe I didn't give them the focus that I have since. That has made me much happier. And also the biggest thing, I was thinking, what would I say to young women or to young people?
Sure.
I surround myself with people who share my values. And that has contributed more than words can express to my happiness, to my sense of contentment, to my sense of optimism, to my energy, to all the things that you want in your life.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. A lot of personal development gurus, especially I think Jim Rohn, says you're the combined average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to make sure you have positive influences. And
Absolutely.
for anyone listening, since this is going to come out a few weeks after we chat, the day you referred to today as a proud liberal feminist is the Kavanaugh hearing.
Yes, so Dr. Ford has spoken and Judge Kavanaugh has spoken. And I think probably, and again, I don't mean to speak for others, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway. I think for a lot of women, this is, it's almost hard for me to refer to it without getting teary right now. It's a tough day.
I agree. I've definitely talked to my husband and a couple of close friends and just kind of like, this is really hitting me hard today. So yeah, I'm glad that we can talk to each other and have each other to lean on today, because we all need to stand together for sure.
I'm very grateful that you said that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to lean on each other today. Thank you, especially today.
Absolutely. So since you found your tribe, and I'm sure
that's one of my, I have to tell you, that's one of my favorite phrases, and it was a phrase that my late husband used all the time.
Oh,
he said, you have to find your tribe. So I just got almost like, I feel like I believe he's listening, more on that later, but I believe he's listening.
Yeah. So let's hear your story from finding your tribe, so to speak, and, living your values. What else has that led to, and what what does that entail for you?
One of the biggest, when Dennis passed, I found that what was very comforting for me, and again, I have to say, the gratitude that I feel for friends and family while he was sick, after he passed, I could never fully convey my gratitude. Something that really made a difference to me. I have always profoundly loved animals. Mm-hmm. Animal welfare is my cause. Okay. And after he passed, when I was looking, let's be frank, for reasons to get out of bed, for reasons to wake up, for reasons to leave the house, we had 3 rescued cats. Mm-hmm. Now, they needed to be fed, that's fine, but, cats don't actually need to be walked. So you can have an excuse that you just stay in the house all day. Yeah. I started volunteering. I live in Los Angeles, and I started volunteering with a couple of Southern California animal rescue, animal welfare, animal advocacy groups. Mm-hmm. That has become a huge part of my life. I think when those are the things where we were talking about the self-help, when it's like, make a list of the things that mean the most to you and how much time do you spend on all of those. Well, certainly being with my husband and being with our rescued dogs, being with friends, being with family, writing, reading, and working to help animals. These to me, and going to the gym, because I feel good. I love to feel good. But those are the things that bring the most meaning to my life. And it really became a huge part of my life after Dennis died. And I think that it helped save my soul.
That's amazing. Well, the way that you phrase that at the beginning, I think sometimes when people think about bold moves, and especially with this podcast, a lot of the moves are very, very bold, like moving to another country. Yes. Or climbing one of the tallest, all 7 of the tallest mountains on every continent and different things like that. But in a situation where you're experiencing so much loss, or if you have clinical depression or Yes. so many things, sometimes getting out of bed itself is a bold move.
Absolutely. And I think it's something, I think that when you're in those kind of situations, and unfortunately I have had close friends since Dennis passed who have lost their mates and have lost, and unfortunately it's a club that you don't want to belong to, but when you do belong to it, you really get it. Right. Getting out of bed is a triumph. And I would say to everyone, in any difficult situation, when you put one foot in front of the other, please pause for a moment and give yourself credit. I really think that being supportive of each other and then supportive of yourself is so vital. It's so vital. And it's something that perhaps maybe the young women are being taught that today. I don't feel that women of my generation were necessarily taught that. To take care of ourselves and to be kind to ourselves and to be good to ourselves has a boldness in it that I cherish every day.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And I don't think that that's something that was necessarily taught to people my age, at least not where I lived. But I do think that there seems to be a positive revolution in that direction. So you hear a lot more about self-care. And even though sometimes people are having that be like bubble baths and, which are small forms of it, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. And I think it's, starting to be a lot more mainstream and on the horizon, which is definitely great news.
Absolutely great news. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, in this rebirth and in, what you've been doing with really living in your values, if you have the comfort in being able to say that your purpose, or is that something you're still looking for? And if you do know, I'm wondering what your purpose is.
Again, just a great question. I do feel really good about knowing my purpose. And I again, being of a certain age, whatever that means, because every age is a certain age,
right.
But I am at the point where I feel that I know myself better than I have in the 60 years that have passed before. Sure. But for me, I have a twofold purpose and subcategories, but it is to advance the cause of animal welfare and to help as many animals as I possibly can. It is also to bring more kindness and more laughter into the world. I think of the Dalai Lama, and I hope I'm quoting him correctly, because I thought I read it once and then I didn't double check, but I think he says, I have a religion. It is kindness. And then you were saying before also, having positive energy around you is so vital. If there's someone who's being negative, you can walk away from that. I mean, it's important to try to help, but there are times when people unfortunately can't be helped. So don't sacrifice yourself. Walk away from that. The novels that I write are comedic.
Yeah.
I share a birthday with P.G. Wodehouse, and I hope that I can make people laugh a small fraction as much as his work has made me laugh. I love to make people laugh. When I do readings, I go for the laughter. And that to me is comfort and kindness and soothing. So I really do feel that my mission in life, my purpose in life is to help, to bring kindness, to bring joy, to bring laughter to everyone I meet, and you know, frankly, I love the social media world because you can do more of that. You can reach more people. You know, my nieces and nephews, well, you know, when I was in college, and their eyes get huge, like, how is it possible? If I wanted to look something up, I put a jacket on and walked to the library.
Right.
I love social media. I love the fact that you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
And we're not in the same location.
Well, we're probably relatively close because I'm in LA, but
nice.
Given traffic, that could still be a significant drive.
Depending on the timing, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but I agree, and I've interviewed people in Europe and Asia, Australia, New Zealand. So
it's insane.
It is.
It's amazing.
Yeah, even just thinking like I'm doing this on my laptop, but the fact that I could do it on my phone, and like if you'd have told me when I was 5 that someday I was going to have a device that I could video chat with someone in New Zealand with, I'd be like, what? That's the future. You're living in the future.
Yeah.
So I love that. But I will, since you are in the area and you say you do readings, I'm going to have to attend one. So next time you know of one, I'm near downtown, if that helps at all. But
you are not far from me at all, because I am near downtown. So we will definitely do that. I will look forward to us staying in touch for that. That will be so much fun.
I love that. Cool. So that's great about your purpose. And I think that, you know, it's interesting that there's so many, like you said, you have a couple and then they have subcategories, and it's same, but it's also like pretty general too, in a good way, that, you know, you just want to make people laugh. You just want to bring joy to people's lives and take care of animals. And I think that's fantastic. So Thank you. Great that you know that, and that has to feel good and help guide your choices from day to day. Always.
It feels great. And it really, really does guide my choices. I mean, just as another quick aside, when my first husband passed, and about 2 years after, because, you know, I really liked being married. I really liked being married to him, and I really liked having a partner in life. I really liked it. And I knew that, you know, again, I would hope to be married again. And, you know, about 2 years after, I started kind of thinking I might start dating again, and sort of mentioning that to our friends. And a friend who loves to debate, sort of like loves to ask provocative questions, said, well, would you date anyone who didn't dislike animals but was indifferent to them? No.
Yeah,
deal breaker. I mean, like total, like no. My husband, Tom, when I met him, I had 3 cats, and he's very, 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 very allergic to cats. And as he said to the allergist who told him, "You're not allergic to anything but cats," his comment was, "I'm not going to give that ultimatum to my new girlfriend, because I know what she's going to pick." And he's right. I mean, they were there first. And that to me is loyalty. So absolutely. It really does infuse and guide all of my choices, which is something that I didn't think about when I was younger. Right. And I do really, and I don't think this is surprising, date my life before and after Dennis's illness. It was that much of a sea change, and that much of obviously, again, one life was over. It just was. And I think the same is true. And when there's a divorce, when there's anything like that, where your old life has changed dramatically.
Sure.
And hopefully, as painful as it is, there are lessons to be had.
Absolutely. And I think like the silver lining of it of course the lessons. And one thing that I'm hoping to do with this podcast is kind of stop people from doing status quo in living in a way that they're not happy with.
Yes.
And that could be different for different people. It could be like a job thing. It could be a city they live in thing. It could be a toxic friendship or relationship that they're like, wow, I hadn't thought about that, but I can just walk away from this person who makes me miserable every day, or my coworker. I can just talk to a different coworker, whatever it is. And so as such, I'm going to ask a question that's probably going to be difficult. And, but I'm curious about what the scariest moment in your life has been, the scariest, a time that you had to face fear and you pushed through because you're here. So
it has to have been, Dennis was having stomach issues. And this was a terrible, terrible week in 1998. And I don't know why. I'm a worrier. I'm really a worrier. I still look back and go, why wasn't I worried? And I thought, it's an ulcer. What could it be?
So this, I assume, is before the diagnosis.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So he's having stomach issues. We go to the doctor, and he has his tests. And and again, I look back and go, why wasn't I worried? A long time passed, and the nurse comes out and says, the doctor wants to talk to you. And I'm walking down the hallway, not thinking anything. And these words changed everything. The doctor said, your husband has a growth on his stomach. The news after that was, I'm going to just go out on a limb and make this bold statement that was the worst week of my life. Because every bit of news after that, where you could have a hopeful possibility or a less hopeful possibility, each bit of news was bad.
Right.
Well, it is so it's malignant. It spread. Every piece. And he died within 6 months. And if I may add a corollary, hospice. The hospice nurses were the greatest people on earth. That hospice time, you know this person's going to die.
Yeah.
They're still there.
Sure.
But the day is going to come when that's not going to be the case. That was probably the worst. I think it was about 6 weeks. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly, where he was in hospice care. That was the worst. It was unspeakable. I still actually, it's funny. It's not funny, but 20 years later, it still moves me to tears to think about that time. The difference for those who are grieving, I would make, is that now when I think of Dennis and I get teary, it's with joy of thinking about him. There was a time when thinking about him was so painful I couldn't bear it because his absence was so vivid. A friend of mine said something very profound to me then. She said, now everything reminds you of his absence. As you rebuild your life, you will build new traditions. So I have a new life now. Right. There's nothing in this house that I'm in right now that specifically reminds me of Dennis's absence. And that, to me, is what healing is.
Yeah.
It is when and you don't want the wound becomes a scar. You don't want the scar to go away because it reminds you of them.
Right.
But it's good to have the wound healed over into a scar. That week of the information about his illness and then the hospice certainly were the biggest, most painful challenges I have faced to date.
Yeah, I can't even begin to imagine what that was like. So if somebody's listening to this and they have recently lost someone or something drastic has changed in their life, what advice would you give to them to push past the fear that you had in that week and just to keep going?
There are a couple of things, and I'm not kidding about this. My website has a way to contact me.
Sure.
Contact me. I really feel and I love that you talk about missions. Again, I unfortunately have several close friends who have lost their spouses, and whatever grief whatever form the grief takes, contact me, send me an email. There is a book that I would highly recommend. It's called A Time to Grieve. The author's name is Carol Staudiker. It's on Amazon. It's at your local bookstore. A friend sent it to me after Dennis passed. It was one of the most soothing, comforting things I could have gotten. I would say that soothing to me is a very, very, very important word as you grieve. You mentioned bubble baths. For me, it's long walks. It's whatever It's hugging my animals. It's being with people who I feel comfortable and relaxed with. Whatever it is that will comfort and soothe you, do it. Do it now. Don't do anything to the fullest extent that you can. Don't do anything you don't want to do. Don't do anything right now because you're grieving. Don't do anything that takes care of someone else's needs. Like you were saying about negative people or negative energy, get rid of it. Get rid of it right now. I think when there's something called the wellness community, I think it has a new name now, but it's for people who are caregivers and people who have cancer. Mm-hmm. My caregiver support group was one of the most important groups I ever joined. Unfortunately, we all lost our loved ones at the same time. We became a grief support group. The woman who led our caregiver group and our grief support group is one of the most profound, amazing people I've ever met. She said to me, and I knew she had been widowed, and she said to me, I promise you, you will be happy again. I will have that statement notarized if you want me to. And I held on to that during my darkest, most terrible nights of the soul. And I would say to the people who are grieving, who are facing something difficult, if you could get around grief by walking around it, we'd all do it. You can't. You have to go through it. And the thing is, though, there is another side. There is another side. There is hope. You will be happy again. I will echo my dear Lola's comment. If you want me to get that notarized, I will get it notarized for you.
Well, thank you so much for being open to helping other people. And I know it's because you immediately credited your community and your tribe to helping you, and that you're willing to extend that hand out to anybody who is looking for it. We'll put the book you mentioned in the show notes, but
Great.
Do you have any other book recommendations? I know you've written some, so I want to hear about those. And then anything else too. It could be on topic, off topic, fun reads, personal development, whatever you suggest. We'll put in the show notes as well, but let's hear about them now.
Fantastic. And I brought a little audio visual. I don't even, do the kids use that phrase nowadays? Audio visual?
I still do, but I say a lot of things that might make me seem not like one of the hip kids. So
that only makes me love you more. And I know this is probably backward. Well, it is, but I'm going to start with the ones that I would recommend to anyone who loves words, who loves stories, who loves writing, to any writers. I feel that these three are musts. These must be on your desk. You must. I can get on a soapbox and be very bossy.
Please do. You have the microphone.
Fantastic. This is my college copy of The Elements of Style by Strunk and White. It is, I would say, basically I highlighted every single page. It is a must. It is a thin volume. It is a must. I'm just going to repeat that. This is the absolutely wonderful Bird by Anne Lamott. This will bring you to the joy of writing. It will bring you back to the joy of writing. It's just wonderful. It's a bestseller for a reason. I wouldn't be without it. I refer to it all the time.
Fabulous.
And in terms of your soul, your writer's soul, this is one of the wonderful co-writers, Dennis Palumbo, of one of my favorite movies, which is called My Favorite Year with Peter O'Toole. He is now a therapist, especially I think he specializes in creative people. It is called Writing from the Inside Out. It's a must. It is when you have those moments when you feel, I think all creative people do. It's maybe all people do. It's hard. It's hard out there. This will be the comfort that you need. And I have a few more.
Okay. Keep it coming.
I have a favorite contemporary novel. I have a favorite classic novel. This is the beloved copy given to me by one of my closest friends. This belonged to her father, who was one of my favorite people on earth. It is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. It is the unabridged version. A lot of times the bookstores will have the abridged version. Get the full 1,500 pages. You don't want to read the abridged version. This one got me through a really rough summer in New York when I had been rather unceremoniously dumped by my boyfriend. It was just after college. It was humid. It's that humid New York summer. And I had no air conditioning in my 5th floor walk-up because I was and you're just like, oh, please, I can't, and you can't sleep. I mean, it's a nightmare. Right. I went to the bookstores because my friend's father had said, read The Count of Monte Cristo. Couldn't get the unabridged version. Finally, through the great New York Public Library system, And I love public libraries. I love libraries. They're the best things in the world. I got the full copy, and it saved my life. Because I was thinking, if I'm not suffering the way the Count of Monte Cristo is, I'm fine.
You're doing all right. Yeah.
How bad can it be? And then my favorite contemporary novel is A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving. I envy people who have not read that because it's so utterly marvelous. I would also say to you that for me as a writer, when I've received, you put your stuff out in the world, you're vulnerable.
Absolutely.
There are going to be comments that are not going to be what you wanted to hear. When I have gotten negative comments, when someone has not liked my work, I have reminded myself, there is no one piece of creative work that everyone will love. That's like a mathematical, physical impossibility. Right. I think John Irving's A Prayer for Owen Meany is the perfect novel. I have friends who agree with me. I also have friends who have said to me, "You liked that book? I hated that book." So that also helps. It's just a gift. It's a gift to remember. There are going to be people who hate your work.
Right.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Deal with it. And just remind yourself there are also going to be people who love your work.
That's a great perspective for sure. And a nice reminder that if you love it, no matter what it is, somebody else, not necessarily.
And somebody else will.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it would be really boring if we all like the same thing and competitive.
Wouldn't it ever? I know. I want that copy. No, it's absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for those recommendations.
My pleasure.
You mentioned your website has a way to contact you, and I know that we're connected on social media, and I assume that since you said, open invitation for anyone who needs to reach out to you. Where are you online? Where can people find you? I'll put it in the show notes, of course, but if somebody's listening while they jog or drive and want to hear it, where can we find you?
Perfect. That's so great. I think, because I do have one of those unusual names, I may be the only Heidi Mastrogiovanni on Facebook. Okay. I also have an author page on Facebook called Heidi Mastrogiovanni Talkin' About Stuff She's Written Stuff. You're so sweet to laugh. Thank you. That was, I was hoping for that reaction, so thank you. I'm on Twitter. I am also on the Instagram. Now, I should warn everyone, just in case, that I guess curse like a sailor would be the phrase I'm looking for. Okay. And on Twitter, I spare no outrage. I spare absolutely no outrage. And goodness knows I've had reason to not spare it lately. But I would be delighted. I love community. I think for me, again, not to get on my soapbox, but the difference between me and certain other people in terms of politics is I believe in community. Right. And I believe in taking care of each other. So I love to talk about books. I love to talk about animals. I love to talk about laughter. I love to talk about politics, everything. So yes, I would be delighted. Please, please, please reach out. And I love that you and I are going to stay in touch because I already just think you're the most delightful thing on earth. So. Oh, likewise. And I'm excited to have a new friend in LA because I've only been here for like a year. So you've only been here a year? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Where from? Well, I was in the Bay Area for about 3 years, and then before that, the Midwest. So very nice, very nice. Absolutely. I have lived here 23 years. This is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. Welcome to Los Angeles. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. Well, we'll have to grab a coffee or a cocktail or something at some point. Absolutely, absolutely. That will be lovely. Fantastic. So your Facebook author page is called Heidi Talking About What She's Written and Stuff, or that's probably awfully paraphrased, but you still haven't told us much about the books that you've written. So I asked for book recommendations and said, tell us about your books, and you're just being so humble. So let's hear about what you've written. Do you know what my husband says? I am chatty. I love to chat. I love to, but I sometimes have great fits of shyness. I think, what are those things that you have, where it's like, I'm a social introvert or something like that. Yeah, I'm an outgoing introvert. Right, exactly, exactly. Because I think the criteria that made me realize that that's the case is I mean, I don't know about you, I can spend hours alone and get energized by that.
Absolutely.
I will sit on the couch with the senior dogs. We have 3 adorable senior dogs.
Aw.
Adopt, don't shop, adopt. And there are a lot of seniors out there who need homes. And you know what? They're easy. They nap all day. Not a lot of work involved. But I do sometimes have fits of shyness. So without further ado, and a bold move through my fit of shyness, here's the first one.
Okay.
It's Lala Pettibone's Act 2. Then the sequel just came out. August and I just had our book launch party together at Fabulous Book Soup in West Hollywood, because her fantastic book just came out. Sequel, Lala Pettibone. Listen to me mispronounce my title character. Lala Pettibone, standing room only. The comedic novels, and the title character, let's be frank, the title character is so autobiographical. It's almost like I'm plagiarizing myself.
So if you were a Law and Order episode, there you'd have.
Okay, you know that Lala and I both have Law and Order SVU on in the background when we're writing.
I love SVU.
And I also, again, another quick aside, the writer Roxane Gay, whom I adore, I heard speak at the American Booksellers Association Winter Institute in January of 2017. A rough month. I think you all know what I'm talking about. And she was brilliant, and I'm just this huge fan. And she mentioned her zodiac sign. We have the same zodiac sign, and without giving anything away, I checked, and she and I have the same birthday. So it was like, oh my God. And then she at one point mentioned that she has Law and Order SVU on in the background when she writes. So it's like, what? But yes, if it were an episode, it would be, I would have killed off Lala Pettibone because she could tell my secret or something like that. But she is an animal welfare advocate. She was widowed young. She finds love again and then is terrified that the person's going to die. I mean, I'm the kind of spouse who if Tom snores in the middle of the night, I wake him up and go, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm a nervous Nelly. But this whole thing is designed to encourage people. Act 2. It's called Act 2 for a reason. And the Lala philosophy is it's never too late to begin again, and it must be happy hour somewhere. And she embraces. We're going to
get along just fine.
No, seriously, come on. We knew we were. We knew we were going to do that. When you said coffee or cocktails, I'm like, yeah, we could skip the coffee and go for the cocktails. She is all about. She actually she does one of your bold moves. I'm giving nothing away if I say that she is forced to move from her beloved Manhattan Island to Manhattan Beach, California. So that's a bit of a bold move.
Dramatically different.
Yes, and she doesn't want to. She's dragged kicking and screaming for reasons that are clear in the book. And so it is my I'm working on the prequel now. And the prequel is called Lala Pettibone Curtain Up. And the challenge for that is it's about graduating from after college and meeting her late first husband. And it's trying to find the punchlines in a cancer battle, which has been, a little bit challenging, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to read all 3 of them. So.
I can't wait to sign your copies.
Oh, perfect.
It will be my honor and privilege to do so.
I actually just joined a mastermind, and we set our goals at the beginning of the week. And one of mine was that I want to read a book for fun, start reading a book for fun this week.
Fantastic.
I'm an entrepreneur, so I've been telling myself I'm not allowed to have fun because all of my waking moments should be spent trying to, advance my business. And I'm like, no, that's not really fair to me. And I'll probably advance a lot faster if I don't feel guilty every time I take a moment for myself. So
you know what my message is going to be to you, right?
Let's hear it.
Again, from a perspective of a woman of a different generation, having been around more.
Yeah.
Grab it. Have fun.
Yeah.
My advice, and I know you love being an entrepreneur. I'm sure of it. I'm sure you're doing it because you love it. Grab the fun too. Grab it with as much energy. I honestly believe, and I know you'll agree, that will give you all that much more energy for your work.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I've heard, and I've made many attempts to put that into practice and get the proof of that. And now that I have the accountability of someone's going to ask me on Monday, like, did you get a book to read for fun?
Excellent.
Then
Excellent.
I think it's time for me to really do it. So I'm excited for that.
And just a thought, something that, and I hope this is helpful, because I've said this to people who have had challenges starting a novel, starting a manuscript, writing one. And it's a lot of this is from Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. Write for 15 minutes, read for 15 minutes. Don't
Sure.
even set yourself up, oh, I've got to finish this book by Tuesday, whatever.
Sure.
And then you'll maybe read 15 more, and maybe you'll write 15 more. And it's just because you're having fun doing it.
Yeah, I love that.
It shouldn't feel overwhelming. It should just feel like, I'm going to do this. As a friend of mine says, I can do almost anything for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's not going to take away from your work. That's going to be great.
Yeah, that's great. And I give the same advice for people who are wanting to work out. I usually say 5 minutes, but I'm like, if you feel too tired, to test to see if you're actually tired, which if you are, don't work out. It's better for you to get your body some rest.
Absolutely.
But if you're just bored or unmotivated, usually after 5 minutes of whatever your workout is, you probably have endorphins, and I think beginning is often the hardest part. So I think most people keep going after the 5 minutes. So
I absolutely agree. And I think, and it's funny that you say that, because I do something physical every day. It's usually going to the gym, but it has to be something I enjoy. And a lot of people have said to me, and I do it specifically because it makes me feel great.
Yeah.
And when people say, well, what kind of exercise would you recommend? And my answer is always the same. It's whatever enjoy.
You'll do. Yeah.
What you'll do and what you'll enjoy. When I'm on the elliptical or when I'm on the treadmill, I've got my Kindle or I've got my book. I'm reading. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably not pounding it as much as I could be, but I don't care.
Right.
I'm doing it in a way that will sustain me and keep me reading and keep me working out.
Absolutely.
Same thing with taking a fantastic walk. I do it because I love it. Find what you love.
Sure.
And then do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Or a 15-minute walk is better than no walk.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you could have the workout designed by an Olympic strength and conditioning coach. And if you hate it, you're not going to do it. And then it's going to be worse than dancing around in your kitchen to your favorite song. which is so brilliant. What a great way to get physical activity. Yeah, absolutely.
Genius.
That's fun.
Genius. Yep. Yep. I think that's the theme we're having here.
I think I see a theme too.
Yep.
Well, another theme that we've had has definitely been that I feel like you've given a lot of advice and a lot of value to our listeners, or if they're watching on YouTube, our viewers. So I'm wondering if there's anything else that you feel like is important. Maybe it's something you've learned recently, something you wish that you had learned before the prequel, as it were, or, just anything.
Oh, wow. Great way of looking at it. Before the prequel, I'm going to go with what I always say. What I always say to my nieces and nephews. I knew very early on, that I didn't want to have children of my own, other than the four-legged kind, because these are my babies, Sure, but I wanted to be that crazy aunt. I wanted to be the one that like you have them for a day and you go to the movies and then you get them all riled and you give them back to their parents and go, deal with it. Good luck. I
guarantee everyone is thinking of at least one, maybe 5 specific women right now when you say that.
and I feel that I really feel, I'm so glad you said that. I feel I had an aunt who had no kids, who was one of my best friends. I feel that every child growing up should have a crazy aunt who, it's Auntie Mame. I mean, I feel like you should have your Auntie Mame. And I would say that the advice I would give to my nieces and nephews, and God knows they will tell you, I give them plenty of advice. And it harkens back to what we were talking about before, was something that I've learned. Pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Again, I didn't before Dennis got sick. God, I just think I was so glib. I keep coming back to the word glib. I was very superficial. I didn't really pay attention to what was going on. I kind of just got through my days. Mm-hmm. Think, read, learn, find what you love, and become really good at it. Yeah. Whether that's taking a class or reading a book about it or practicing it. But do it because you love it. I know I'm at a certain age where I don't have maybe the responsibilities of young people, and I don't have children that I need to take care of. But find what you love. It's a cliche for a reason. Do what you love and take care of yourself and take care of others and be kind. And if there are negative people around you, get away from them.
Yeah.
I think we have enough negativity in the world. And again, I keep coming back to the sea change that happened in November of 2016. Mm-hmm. Please be kind. Please be caring. Please be aware. Please be selfish and unselfish. Take care of yourself. Take care of others who deserve it. Mm-hmm. And bring more goodness into the world. And take care of yourself while you're doing that and have fun while you're doing it. I work to help animals because I love them, because I have fun when I do it. As heartbreaking as it can be.
Sure.
It has so much meaning for me. Find what has meaning for you. Fun, I think, in the sense of many layers to that word. It's fun because it's got meaning.
Yeah.
And I think you were saying in terms of finding your purpose in life. Mm-hmm. I can't think of anything more important than that. There are things that are as important. I can't think of anything more important. And find it. Think about it. Take your time. Let it be. My advice would be let it be and pay attention and listen and focus.
Yeah, that's great. Now, my question that I generally save for last is always interesting. Well, I love it always, but it's even more interesting sometimes when I ask somebody who has had some tough times that they've gone through, and if that's been a big part of our conversation. Now, what I love to ask is if 8-year-old Heidi had a crystal ball and could see where you are now. I think you said you're 61 now. Or?
I will be in just a little while.
Okay, I was going to say, you said last year was your 60th.
Yes. So very soon. I was born in October, so very soon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if 8-year-old Heidi could look into a crystal ball and see everything that you've gone through so far, which seems to be a lot of adventures as well as some really tough times too. And then you kind of, I'm sure, have plans. You're working on your 3rd book. You have a foreseeable future that you can have a probably decent idea of what that'll be like. On a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would little Heidi be to see everything to now?
That may be one of the most marvelous questions I've ever heard. And little Heidi would break the rule and say she'd be 12 excited, or maybe a baker's dozen and 13
Ooh,
excited.
I like it.
Yeah.
It especially warms my heart when, like I said, you've gone through tough times. And of course, no child wishes to deal with anything like that or can even probably comprehend, since as an adult, I can't comprehend that. But to still hear that, like you said, you were reborn and with the support of your tribe have been able to make this still an extremely fulfilling and positive life that just fills me with so much joy. And I'm so glad.
I'm glad. I'm really, really glad. You have the most wonderful positive energy. That was clear in your emails, and it's even more clear now in person, in air quotation marks. Yes. So if I have given anyone hope today, I don't think I could be happier. The closing lines, may I very quickly read the closing lines? It's not giving anything away.
Please do.
Of the Count of Monte Cristo. Just to paraphrase, all human wisdom is contained in these 2 words: wait and hope. Hope is something we can't live without. And little 8-year-old Heidi was always hopeful, and even in the hardest. And hope does have a way of sometimes, as we all know, there are times when it seems really hard to find.
Yeah.
And I love that you were talking about plans for the future. I just haven't felt better in my life. I haven't ever felt this energized. I haven't ever felt this positive. The road to here, the 60 years leading to here, whatever the path was, it's led to. I believe it's led to exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a very, 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 even with God, again, don't get me started, even with what's going on in our world, I remain forever Mr. Rogers. I just saw the Mr. Rogers documentary. It just came right into my head and I had to share it. You know, his mother said to him, the advice that he carried, during hard times, look for the helpers.
Helpers, yeah.
Did you see that documentary?
I haven't yet, but did you see what I actually posted today? I saw that they're making a movie, like a Hollywood adaptation. Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers.
Who else would you cast?
I know. He's so
how brilliant.
Perfect. Yes.
You and everyone listening, you must see this documentary. It is moving and it gives one hope. And it is during hard times. Look for the helpers. We know that they're out there. We see them every day. It is the most marvelous thing in the world that I can think of. Look for the helpers and be one of the helpers.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's a perfect closing. So thank you, Heidi, for sharing what has to be hard to kind of re-experience and explain. And, you know, I think you're really a great example of providing hope for somebody who might be going through something tough and realizing, you know, if Heidi can make it through that, then whoever's listening can make it through whatever it is they're going through. So I really appreciate what you're doing in the world. And I think it's easy for us to discount the value sometimes of humor, funny books or goofy TV shows or whatever it might be. But there are some days when a laugh can be life-changing. So
life-saving and life-changing. Absolutely. Yeah. I cannot thank you enough. This has been a complete and utter joy. I'm so happy again to meet you in the virtual realm. Can't wait to order a cocktail with you. And thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for promoting and sustaining and supporting and encouraging bold moves.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine.
I hope you loved her story just as much as I loved learning it myself through chatting with Heidi. And I hope that it inspires you in some way. If it did, or you found it entertaining or informative or any of the above, I would love it, of course, if you share this with anyone who you think would also find it inspiring, entertaining, or informative, because my goal is to get as many people as I can possible to be inspired and go after their own dreams, whatever they may be. So I would love it if you shared these episodes with people who would like that. While you're at it, I would love it, of course, if you subscribed, because I have another great episode coming to you Friday with a challenge from Heidi that I think you will enjoy, so make sure you do that. And, you know, while I'm making requests, I would love it if in iTunes or wherever you're listening to this, you left me a great review. That would help Apple share, or whatever platform you're listening to this on, that would help them make other people realize that this is a podcast that they should maybe check out, which again would help me inspire more people, which again is the goal. So those are my requests for you. If you were listening to this and thought I would love to win a couple copies of Heidi's books, or you are wondering where you can find her recommendations or quick links to her websites and social media, in case you're not familiar with that Italian spelling of that last name, you can find all of that information at www.mandiem.com/episode 205, since this is the 205th episode. And if you are tooling around my website and thinking, you know what, I've done some bold moves myself, please head over to mandiem.com/guest. There's a form you can fill out that gives me all of your information, and I can get back to you with scheduling if I agree that you have made some bold moves. All right, that is it for now. Stay tuned for, and that's also where that giveaway is. I think I already mentioned that though. But stay tuned for a challenge from Heidi for Friday. And as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.